They never found Colton. 4 days of search teams, dogs, helicopters. Nothing. Just boot prints that stopped at a stone foundation in a clearing that shouldn't exist, and a blue baby blanket that should have been buried in a casket in Ohio. I watched him walk into those trees, barefoot, calm, holding that blanket against his chest like he was carrying his son home. The forest closed behind him the way water closes over a stone, and the sound of his footsteps just stopped. Not faded, stopped. The search report says missing, presumed exposure. I know what actually happened. Something in that forest learned his dead child's name without being told, and it whispered it back to him in the dark, and he followed it, and he isn't lost. He's exactly where he wanted to be. I almost went with him. Some nights I still almost go. A lullaby starts, playing from nowhere. My daughter's lullaby, the one I sang to her every night before she died. And a warmth comes that doesn't belong to anything in my house, and something says, come back. Last week I called the Forest Service. Tower 9 is still listed. The rules someone left on the corkboard are gone. Whoever takes that posting next won't know to leave on the 11th night. Here's what happened. The cabin at the base of Tower 9 was small. 2 bunks, a wood stove, a desk with a shortwave radio, a window that faced east toward a ridge that looked like the spine of something buried. The tower rose above it on a steel frame. 60 feet of narrow staircase bolted to the outside, leading to the glass-walled observation cab at the top. From up there, you could see 30 miles in every direction. Forest and sky and nothing else. I arrived with Dana and Colton. Dana is my wife. Colton was her idea. We'd signed up together through a Forest Service volunteer program. 3 people, 2 weeks, 1 tower. It was supposed to be a reset. That was Dana's word. We need a reset, she kept saying in the months before we applied. And I'd agree, because agreeing was easier than talking about why we needed one, which was that our daughter Lily had died 14 months earlier at the age of 4, and our marriage since then was 2 people standing in the same house during an earthquake, both reaching for different walls. Colton was Dana's college friend, the kind of person who could fill silence without making it feel forced. He'd done 2 tours in Afghanistan, worked as an EMT for 6 years after that. He'd seen things. He carried a particular stillness that I recognized as the residue of proximity to death, not peace exactly, but a negotiated ceasefire with the worst parts of being alive. I understood why Dana wanted him there. He was ballast. He kept things from tipping. What I didn't know, what neither of us knew yet, was what Colton was carrying of his own. He didn't talk about it. He'd learned not to. But the forest found it anyway, because the forest finds everything, and what it found in Colton is part of why I'm telling you to stay away. The outgoing volunteer was a wiry man in his late 50s named Lyle. He showed us the Osborne fire finder in the cab, a brass and steel instrument for taking bearings on smoke columns, walked us through the radio protocols and the weather log, standard orientation. He'd been posted for 5 weeks and was leaving with the clipped efficiency of someone who'd been counting days. Colton noticed the list first. It was pinned to the corkboard in the cabin. Yellow legal paper, blue ballpoint, handwriting that was small and careful and slightly shaky, as if the writer had been concentrating hard on being legible under stress. One red thumbtack pushed in so deep the head was flush with the cork. "What's this?" Colton asked. Lyle glanced at it. Something in his face tightened. Not a change of expression, but a change of tension like a rope pulled taut from the far end. Previous volunteer left that before my rotation. Did you follow them? Colton asked, half smiling. I didn't need to, Lyle said. Nothing happened. Not they're not real, not it's a joke. Nothing happened. As if something was supposed to. 9 rules? 1. Do not go above the tree line alone after sundown. 2. If the radio produces a sound that is not static and not a voice, turn it off and do not turn it back on until sunrise. 3. The observation cab must be occupied by at least one person between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Do not all sleep through this window. 4. If you hear children in the forest, do not respond and do not look for them. 5. The supply cache at the half-mile marker is not a supply cache. Do not open it. 6. If one member of your group begins acting differently, do not confront them about it. Watch them. Wait. 7. Do not leave anything personal outside overnight. Clothing, photographs, anything that has been close to your body. 8. If the firefinder begins to move on its own, do not touch it. Read the bearing it settles on and document it. Keep every bearing. 9. On the 11th night, leave. Do not stay for the full 2 weeks. Whatever reason you find to stay, it is not yours. Colton read them once and laughed. I read them twice. Donna was outside at the edge of the clearing, looking at the mountains. She looked like someone standing at the edge of a pool, deciding whether the water was too cold. Lyle left within the hour. His truck pulled down the access road and the engine sound didn't fade the way engines fade. It cut out. One moment it was rumbling on gravel and the next, silence. Not the absence of sound. The presence of something that had swallowed it. The first 3 days were the closest thing to peace I'd felt since Lily. The mountain air was thin enough that your lungs had to work for it, and a mind that's working for oxygen doesn't have the spare capacity for its usual excavation of grief. Dana and I took shifts in the cab, logging weather and scanning ridgelines for smoke. Colton handled supply runs to the cache. The real one, a quarter-mile down the south trail, marked with Forest Service signage. We cooked together, played cards by lamplight. Dana laughed at something Colton said on the second night. Really laughed, the kind that uses the whole face. And something moved in my chest that I couldn't identify. On the third night, I took the late shift in the cab because I couldn't sleep. Colton normally covered the 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. window, but he didn't argue when I offered. The cab at night. A glass box in the sky. The forest below you like a dark ocean in every direction. No light pollution. No human sound. The Osborne firefinder sits on its pedestal in the center. Graduated brass circles, sighting lines. The central alidade for taking bearings. During the day, it's a tool. At night, it's a silent, precise thing waiting for a reason to move. At 2:47 a.m., it found one. The alidade rotated 15 degrees to the left. Slow, smooth. As if an invisible finger were turning it, no vibration, no wind. The cab was sealed and I was alone. It stopped. It settled. Bearing 217. I thought about Rule 8. I wrote it down. I noted the time. I watched the instrument for another hour. It didn't move again. Morning, I told Dana and Colton. Colton said wind vibration through the steel frame. Dana asked if I'd been sleeping. I told her I hadn't, and she gave me the look I'd come to know. Concern layered over exhaustion, layered over the question she wouldn't ask, which was whether I was becoming someone who needed managing. On the fourth night, Colton took the shift. In the morning, he was at the desk. No coffee made, which he always did. The notebook was open to a single number. 217, he said. 2:51 a.m. Same motion, like someone breathing on it. He wasn't smiling anymore. I got out the topographic map. Bearing 217 from Tower 9 ran southwest, across a deep valley, over a ridge, and into a section of forest, marked with contour lines, but no trails, no features, no names. I traced the line until it ended at nothing. A point in the wilderness with no human reason to exist. We didn't go, not yet. Instead, across 3 more nights, all 3 of us, independently, watched the alidade rotate to 217 degrees between 2 and 4 a.m. Same bearing. 3 different people. The number never changed. On the 5th night, the radio spoke. Not static, not a voice. A single sustained low-frequency hum that came from the speaker, but also from the walls and the floor, as if the device were a point of entry, but not the source. 30 seconds, no waver, no pitch change. Then it stopped. Rule 2. I turned it off. In the morning, I called Marguerite at the ranger station. She reported no interference. I almost asked her about the rules, but didn't, because I could hear how it would sound, and because the bearing was 217 every night without exception. And explanations that required me to sound crazy were explanations that would get us pulled from the posting before I understood what was at the other end of that line. On the 6th day, I found the cache. I wasn't looking for it. A short hike along the North Trail, an hour to clear my head, and there it was, a metal ammo can 50 yards off the trail, half covered by a faded tarp, weighted with rocks. Half-mile marker, no signage. Exactly where Rule 5 said it would be. The supply cache at the half-mile marker is not a supply cache. Do not open it. I stood there. Latched, but not locked. 2 feet long, 18 inches wide. Someone had placed it deliberately, and someone else had written a rule telling people not to touch it. I didn't open it. But I noticed something. The tarp, faded to gray. Part of it extended past the edge of the box toward the northwest, and at its furthest point it was pinned under a rock that was different from the others. Lighter, rounded, not local stone. It looked placed, not found. And underneath the rock, pressed into the dirt, was a boot print, a fresh one. The tread was sharp and the soil hadn't filled it yet. Someone had been here within the last few days. Lyle's boots had been brown hiking boots with aggressive tread. This print was from something smoother, a running shoe maybe, or a bare foot with an impossibly uniform sole. I went back to the tower and didn't tell the others. I'm not sure why. I think I was starting to hoard. Small experiences, strange details, collecting them privately the way I used to collect Lily's drawings, with a tenderness I didn't want examined. Our grief counselor had warned about this. The impulse to build a private interior world when the shared one becomes unbearable. Common in bereaved parents. Dangerous when the private world starts feeling more real. On the 7th night, I heard the children. 3:15 a.m. The firefinder had done its rotation, 217 always, and I was in the chair with the notebook when laughter came from the southwest. High, bright, unmistakably young. The kind that comes from children lost in play, whose joy has no self-consciousness because they haven't yet learned that joy requires permission. Rule 4. Do not respond. Do not look for them. I was already looking. A child laughing in the dark, in the middle of nowhere. And every cell in your body answers Not with fear, but with recognition. I knew that sound. Saturday mornings at the park in Bozeman. Lily on the swings. Bath time. The 15 minutes after dinner when she'd chase the dog and the dog would let her catch him because even the dog knew this was sacred. I'm not saying I heard Lily. I'm saying I heard something my body couldn't distinguish from Lily. I didn't respond. I didn't go into the forest. But I listened until the laughter faded. And when it was gone, the silence it left behind had weight. It pressed against the glass like something leaning in. In the morning, I told Donna everything. The cache, the boot print, the bearing, the laughter. I told her because the private world was growing louder than the shared one, and that terrified me. She listened. Colton was outside splitting wood. The axe gave the conversation a heartbeat. When I finished, she said, "I heard them too. Night before, her shift. The laughter sounding like it came from the base of the tower. She'd looked down. Nothing. But I felt something," she said, "like I was being shown something, not tricked." Shown what? That she's not gone the way we think she's gone. Dana has a degree in structural engineering. She once described astrology as astronomy for people who gave up. So when she said this, I paid attention. "What do you want to do?" I asked. "Follow the bearing," we told Colton. He listened, asked a few questions, and then said something unexpected. He said he'd been waking at night while someone was standing outside the cabin. Not patient. Every time I open the door, nobody there. But the feeling stays for about 10 more minutes, then lifts. Like whatever it was decided to leave. That was when I noticed his hands. Colton's hands were always steady. It was the thing you noticed about him first. The EMT's hands. The soldier's hands. Hands that had held compress bandages over arterial bleeds without trembling. His hands were shaking. Not much. Just enough that the coffee in his mug was making small concentric circles, and he was holding the mug with both hands to hide it. Rule 6. If one member of your group begins acting differently, do not confront them about it. Watch them. Wait. I didn't say anything, but I started watching. That night, after Dana had gone to bed and Colton was sitting outside on the lower step of the staircase, I went out to join him. The sky was enormous. The Milky Way looked like a wound in the dark. He was sitting with his elbows on his knees, staring at the tree line. "You okay?" I asked. Not a confrontation, a question. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "My son would have been 6 this year. I didn't know Colton had a son. Dana had never mentioned it. In all the years she'd talked about him, all the planning for this trip, nothing. Would have been," I said. "Stillborn," he said. "Cord wrapped, 2019. His name was going to be Marcus." He said it the way people say things they've practiced alone, flat, rehearsed. The words worn smooth from being turned over privately so many times that the edges were gone. "Dana doesn't know?" I asked. "Dana knows I had a bad year. She doesn't know the details. I didn't. I don't talk about it." "You're talking about it now." He looked at me. "Something out here is making me talk about it. I can feel it, like a hand on the back of my neck, pushing my face toward water. Not mean, just insistent. Like it wants me to look at something I buried." We decided to hike the bearing together. All 3 of us next morning, no splitting up. That night I broke Rule 7 without meaning to. My jacket left on the staircase railing. Inside the pocket, a photograph of Lily, wallet-sized, her third birthday, frosting on her nose, an expression of such delight it hurts to see. I'd carried it every day since the funeral, always zipped in, always face up. When I went to retrieve it after dark, the zipper was open. The photo was still inside, but it had been turned face down. Something had handled it. Something had opened the pocket, looked at my daughter's face, and placed her back gently, carefully, the way you return a borrowed thing. And whatever it was now, knew what she looked like. I checked on Colton. He was in his bunk, but his eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. His hands were flat on his chest, and I could see his fingers moving, a slow, repetitive motion like he was stroking something, or like something very small was holding his hand, and he was rubbing his thumb across its knuckles, the way you do with a child who's fallen asleep in your lap. "Colton?" I said. His fingers stopped. "Yeah," he said. Not a question, an acknowledgement. "You feel it too?" "It knows about Marcus," he said. His voice was calm and strange. "I don't know how, but it knows his name. I can feel it in the cabin, not hearing it, feeling it, like the name is in the walls. Rule 6. Watch them. Wait." I didn't confront him. I went up to the cab, sat in the dark, held the photograph, and didn't sleep. The firefinder stayed still. The radio was silent. The forest was quiet, the way a theater is quiet after the lights go down and before the first line is spoken. In the morning, we followed bearing 217 down the North Ridge, through lodgepole pine, across a rocky creek bed, into forest that was older and darker than anything we'd passed through. Douglas fir, with trunks 4 and 5 feet across, canopies so high and dense that the ground beneath was bare and silent. No undergrowth, no bird song, columns of wood rising into a green ceiling, needles that swallowed our footsteps. Dana walked in front, Colton behind. I held the compass in the middle. We moved in silence because the forest required it the way a cathedral does. 2 hours in, the clearing, almost perfectly circular, 40 yards across, empty except for a stone foundation, low walls, no more than 2 feet high, forming a rectangle the size of a small cabin. The stone was dark, smooth, fitted without mortar. Old. Not pioneer old, not colonial old. Old in a way that made the word feel inadequate. No roof, no debris, no collapse. Just the foundation rising from the needle floor, like something that had grown there. I knelt at what felt like the threshold, ran my hand over the stone. It was warm, not sun-warm. The canopy was too thick. Warm the way skin is warm. Warm like a living thing. Dana knelt beside me, touched the stone. Her face changed, a softening around the eyes, a release of tension I hadn't known she carried. She looked at me, and for the first time in over a year, I saw something I recognized from before. Not happiness, openness, a willingness to be reached. Colton had walked to the perimeter and stopped at the far side opposite us. He was standing very still, looking down at something inside the foundation walls. "There's a mark here," he said. We went around. In the bare earth, near the far wall, someone had drawn a symbol, not carved, drawn with a finger or a stick in the dirt. It was simple, a circle, with a horizontal line through the center. Below it, scratched smaller, a word, Marcus. Colton stared at it. The blood left his face in a way I've only seen once before. The night Dana called me from the hospital to say that Lily had stopped breathing. "I didn't tell you his name," he said very quietly. "Last night was the first time I said it out loud in 3 years. I didn't write this. I've never been here before. None of us had. And the dirt around the mark was undisturbed. No footprints, no handprints. The name was just there, as if the ground had produced it the way the ground produces stones. We left, faster than we'd come. Nobody spoke on the trail back. Dana held my hand again. Colton walked ahead of us 10 yards out, moving with the rigid efficiency of someone managing a controlled demolition inside their own chest. That night, the 9th, the radio turned on at 1 a.m. I'd left it off, I was certain, but it was on, and from the speaker came a lullaby. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Played on something that sounded like wood and bone. Lily's song. The star one, Daddy. It played through once and stopped. I went down to the cabin. Dana was awake at the table crying. I heard it through the floor, she said. Colton was in his bunk with the blanket pulled over his head. When I said his name, he didn't answer. But I could hear him whispering. A single word, over and over, so quietly it was barely breath. Marcus, Marcus, Marcus. Rule 6. Watch them, wait. I watched. And what I saw was a man unraveling, not into madness, but into something worse, which was hope. Colton had buried his grief so deep and so completely that he'd built an entire life on top of it. And now something had reached down through all those layers and written his dead son's name in dirt. And the foundation he'd built was cracking. And underneath it was not emptiness, but a warmth that felt like an answer. On the 10th night, we talked about Rule 9. We should leave tomorrow, Colton said. His hands were shaking again. Whoever wrote these rules survived what we're going through. The last thing they wrote was, get out. I stared at him. That morning he'd been whispering his dead son's name into a blanket. Now he was arguing for departure. The shift was sharp enough to feel surgical. You want to leave? I said. I need to leave, he said, because if I stay, I'm going back to that foundation and I'm not coming out. Dana looked at him. What do you mean? I mean, something in that clearing is offering me my son, and I'm running out of reasons to say no. The reasons I have. They feel thin, like someone else's reasons, like I borrowed them and they don't fit. Rule 9, whatever reason you find to stay, it is not yours. He was describing the inverse. Whatever reason he found to leave was starting to feel borrowed too. The forest wasn't just pulling. It was hollowing out the things that pushed back. We stay, I said. Colton closed his eyes. Both of you? He asked. Dana nodded. He opened his eyes. Then I'm staying. But I need you to understand something. If I start walking toward that clearing at night, don't let me go. Whatever I say, whatever I look like, stop me. Okay, I said. Promise me. I promise. The 11th night was quiet. Nothing moved. Nothing sounded. I sat in the cab watching the dark, and the silence felt like held breath, like the pause between the question and the answer. Just before dawn, I came down to check on the others and found the cabin door open. Dana was asleep. Colton's bunk was empty. His boots were by the bed. His jacket was on the hook. He'd left barefoot in his sleeping clothes, and the dirt outside the door showed a single set of prints heading north. Not toward the South Trail, not toward bearing 217, but north, toward the half-mile marker, toward the cache. Rule 5. The supply cache at the half-mile marker is not a supply cache. Do not open it. I woke Dana. We followed the prints. The trail was easy in the early light, bare feet in soft dirt, evenly spaced, no sign of running or stumbling. A calm walk, a deliberate one. They led directly to the clearing where I'd found the metal box. Colton was kneeling beside it. The tarp was pulled back. The latches were open. The lid was up. And Colton was holding something. A blanket. Small blue. The kind you swaddle a newborn in. He was holding it against his face, and he was breathing into it. And the sound he was making was not crying, but something older and more animal. A low, continuous moan that came from somewhere below language. "Colton?" Dana said. He didn't look up. "It's his blanket," he said. "The one from the hospital. I buried it with him. I put it in the casket." It was in the casket. I looked into the box. It was empty now except for one other item. A photograph, wallet-sized. A little girl with frosting on her nose. My photograph. The one from my jacket pocket. The one I'd checked and found turned face down. It was in the box. I hadn't put it there. It had been in my pocket when I went to sleep. I was wearing the same jacket. I reached into the pocket, and it was empty, and the zipper was open. The cache wasn't a supply cache. It was a collection box. It gathered the things that mattered most. The objects, saturated with grief. The ones people kept closest to their bodies. And it held them here, at the half-mile marker, where the forest's attention was thickest. I don't know what it did with them. I don't know if it read them the way a person reads a letter or absorbed them the way soil absorbs water. And I know that it took the shape of what it found and offered that shape back. And the offering felt like love, and the love felt like drowning. I took my photograph back. Dana took Colton's arm. "We need to go back to the tower," she said. Colton looked at her with an expression I will never forget. His eyes were wet, but they were calm. The terrible calm of a person who has made a decision and is at peace with it. "I don't think I'm coming back with you," he said. "Colton, I promised I'd tell you. I'm telling you. I'm going to the foundation. Something is waiting for me, and I'm going to it." "You asked us to stop you," I said. "I know, I was wrong to ask. This is mine. You two have each other." "You have something to go back to?" "I don't. I haven't for 3 years." "Whatever is in that clearing, it's not Marcus. I know that. But it knows his name. It has his blanket, and it's the closest thing to him that exists in the world. And I'm not strong enough to walk away from that. And I'm done pretending I should be." He stood. He was still holding the blue blanket. Dana was crying. I was standing 3 feet from a man who was about to walk into old-growth forest, barefoot and not come back, and I was supposed to stop him. And I understood with total clarity that I couldn't. Not because he was stronger than me. Because he was right. If it had been Lily's blanket in that box, if something in the woods had offered me the exact weight and smell of the thing I'd held against my daughter's skin in the last hour of her life, I would have followed it into the earth itself. "Colton," I said, "please." He looked at me. "Take care of her," he said, meaning Dana. Then he walked into the trees heading southwest, and the forest took him the way it takes sound, completely all at once, as if he'd never been there. We searched for 2 hours, called his name until our voices broke, followed the bearing to the clearing and found the foundation empty, the ground warm, the name Marcus gone from the dirt, smoothed over, as if the earth had swallowed the word, along with the man who'd come for it. That night, the 12th, I woke up inside the foundation, on my back, bare feet, the ground warm as a body, the canopy black, and around the perimeter, the figures, darker than dark, Wrong proportions. Limbs too long, trunks too narrow, heads impossibly far away, and as if their bodies were columns stretching into the canopy and their faces were somewhere in the branches, watching me with a pressure that felt like sunlight on skin. And somewhere at the edge of the clearing, breathing that wasn't mine, steady, calm, already part of the forest's sound. Colton, not visible, not a shape among the figures, just his breathing woven into the wind and the silence and the warm attention of whatever lived here. You can stay, not words. A knowing that appeared complete. The warmth said it, the pressure said it. I stood up. The offer didn't withdraw, it waited. I walked out 2 hours through dark forest, barefoot, and I did not look back. Dana was on the trail, barefoot, eyes open but unfocused, walking toward the clearing with the smooth automation of someone being led. I stepped in front of her. She walked into me and kept pushing, gently, the way a sleepwalker pushes against furniture. Dana, her eyes focused. She looked past me toward the southwest and her face crumpled. "She's there," she said. "She's calling me." "She's not there." "I know, but the thing that sounds like her is, and I can't. I don't know how to not go." I held her on the trail in the dark, both of us barefoot, both shaking, and she pressed her face into my chest and said, "Oh, don't let go." And I didn't. We left at first light. 13 days. We packed in minutes. We didn't look for Colton. We hiked to the access road and called from the emergency phone. Marguerite sent a truck. 40 miles in silence. At the station, I told her Colton was still in the forest. She asked where. I said I didn't know. She looked at me the way Lyle had looked at the corkboard. Tight. Something held behind the expression. "We'll send a team," she said. Then quietly, "The people who leave early are usually the ones who come back." She didn't explain what she meant. They searched for 4 days. Found his prints near the cache. Found the metal box closed and empty. Found nothing at the foundation. No footprints, no disturbed earth, no blanket. The stone was cold when they touched it. He was never found. Missing person, presumed exposure. Case filed. Posting relisted. Corkboard cleared. Dana and I are still married. We are closer now. The trip broke something between us that needed breaking. The seal of private grief. The agreement to suffer separately. We say Lily's name. We share the weight. Shared grief moves differently than the solitary kind. But I hear the lullaby. Not every night. Just sometimes at the edge of sleep when the distance between waking and whatever lies beneath it thins. The star one. Wood and bone. And the warmth comes and the knowing comes. And beside it, quieter, deeper, like a voice from the bottom of a well. Colton's breathing, calm, steady, already home. Every time I say no. Every time the no is smaller. The posting is open. Tower 9, Bitterroot Range. 2 weeks. Don't take it. But if you do, and you find rules on the corkboard, someone always puts them back. Read the 9th one first. Leave on the 11th night. Whatever reason you find to stay, that reason is not yours.